So as President Hollande is coming to India very shortly on his first visit after his election, what do you think are the main issues that should be on the table as far as India is concerned in the IT sphere?
Well, first, I think there is much more to do between Indo-French trade. I think it's increasing, but there is enormous scope that's available. Indian market is changing very rapidly, and I think there is a lot of scope for French companies to offer their products and services in India across IT and across everything else. So I don't think we should be happy with the percentages and the growth we have seen. I think the scope is even more. I do hope that both France and India would work hard to ensure that the free trade agreement is signed, because I think that will open up business opportunities for both our countries, and we do look forward to that happening. As far as the Indian IT industry is concerned, I think we do understand that there are still uncertainties in Europe. The business has been sluggish, and people are conservative in terms of their expenditures. However, in spite of all that, we have seen the business grow for us in Europe, and I think that's a good sign, because it just shows that people are now willing to make changes. They have been very conservative in the past. They have, not been leveraging outsourcing as much as their counterparts in US have done, which would mean that they are not competitive. So I think competitive pressures in Europe, including France, should lead to changes happening. Though I would say that France has been probably a little slower than it should have been. When we look at the IT sector, we should classify both the customers and the service providers into two categories. So first, there are large customers, and there are middle, what we call small and medium-sized customers. The large customers are typically serviced by large IT companies because they're global in nature and they have a presence all across the world, and they tend to be using the larger French companies and then there are the small companies who are typically serviced by smaller companies within the region. Now, while Indian IT companies have established their base in France, what we've seen is they have front ends that are there. The business has been slow, and I think it again reflects that France has been slow to adopt. Mm-hmm. But the question is, with the French market itself having been a little sluggish, for French companies, the markets are global markets, and for them, it's not about competitiveness within France, but competitiveness globally. Mm-hmm. And if that has to be done, then they need IT and business process management to be transformed so that they remain competitive. So we do hope that the French companies would take that step, whether they come through Indian companies or they're going through their current service providers. Now, if I look at the French-based service companies, very large ones, I think they have grown tremendously in India. Mm-hmm. But large part of their growth has come in for servicing their customers in rest of Europe and US. The French part of their work is still very small. So, I think this is the time for us to do it. Mm-hmm. If I look at what's happening across the world, in spite of the downturn today, the CIOs and the companies are investing in social media, integrating mobile, using analytics for decision making, and embracing cloud. Now, this would mean that they need the latest technology. Mm-hmm. They need people to come and change things. So, to me, it's about French companies realizing that it is their competitiveness issue. It's not about outsourcing, offshoring, or anything of that kind. It's about who can do the job for them. Okay. We also hope that the small and medium service providers in France, they have a unique problem because they don't have the resources, the latest technology is not available. SMBs are threatened by themselves because they are also under pressure to be very cost effective. So what needs to be done is these small and medium IT service providers need to tie up with Indian companies, whichever form, mm-hmm. whether it's a joint venture, whether they acquire each other, but they need a back end, front end. Indian small, medium service providers don't have a front end in France. They can never think of putting one. And similarly, the French SMEs will find it very difficult to create a backend of their own. So I think this gives an opportunity of a very unique partnership, which is possible. Later in April, early April, we are having a session in Delhi where we expect these companies to come in. We'll get our service providers to also come in. It's not so much a customer meet, but much more a meet of IT service providers to say what new models have to come in.
Okay.
From an Indian perspective, clearly the penetration rates in France are low, and we think the market is very sophisticated. We can meet their needs, and the only way it has to be done if there's a change that happens now. As I mentioned, we have seen the changes already happening in Europe, and I see no doubt why French would not change either. It's a mindset change that's required. I don't think it's an issue about unions and jobs, because today there is a shortage across the world of the kind of skills that you need to adopt modern technologies. So it's not about one or the other. So it's not a zero-sum game. It's about reskilling the people who are there currently to do what jobs they can, but also leverage talent that's available anywhere else to do that. As you've seen, in spite of low economic poor economic situation across the world, Indian IT industry still grew 11-12%. Larger companies have done even better. So it should not be a situation of missed opportunities for both these countries.
Okay. Do you think the creation of a IT working group will help in this domain?
Well, all these groups help because they bring issues out. We think currently from Indian side we have two big issues that we face. One relates to mobility. I think just like French products will move to India, I think fungibility of resources across the globe is required, and I think that's one issue. The other is we should not do anything which increases the cost of delivery. And today, social security taxes that we have to pay in France without really getting benefit. If they were getting benefit, then it's not a cost increase. But we don't get that benefit, and hence, just like other European countries have been able to effectively use the social security agreement that we have with EU, but the French have found a unique way to not implement it in its spirit and letter, and we hope that would happen. So, the working group of IT, etc., helps in bringing up those issues as well. There are other areas of collaboration globally when we talk about standards, when we talk about cyber security. Those are areas also that the Indo-French IT working group would bring.
Okay. How do you see 2013 for Indian IT across the world, and especially in Europe?
Well, we are still to work out our numbers, but I think we've been very encouraged with the results that we've seen of the previous quarter, which was otherwise a low quarter traditionally for Indian IT industry, which shows the demand side being positive. Surely business continues to be tough, but we would release our estimates in early February or mid-February, right, which would be more worked out, but more specific. But I think Europe, given the changes and given their need, right, even though economic uncertainty will remain, will continue to be providing growth for us.
Okay. And do you think the Indian companies could also perhaps be a bit more aggressive in the European markets, notably in France, by going through the acquisition route? We have seen a couple of big acquisitions happen.
Well, our acquisitions happen for two reasons. We don't need to acquire for customers. Customers that, we do get customers when we do an acquisition. But now the nature of work is where we need domain expertise, and we also need contextual information, right? So you cannot acquire them so easily on your own, right? You can't build domain expertise or contextual information. It takes a long time. So I think for those two reasons, Indian companies are looking for these will be small acquisitions rather than any large, because we need to absorb them and retain those people. And it's a win-win situation for those who acquire, because their possibility of survival and growth becomes more. And in any of these acquisitions, we should never have a fear of losing people, because those are the reasons that we're actually doing the acquisition, right? So we're doing it because there are resources there.
Okay. And finally, what would you like to? Do you think these acquisitions also bring adequate value addition to the work that Indian IT is doing? Are you
Yeah,
happy
it
with the
does,
value
because,
addition jobs that we're doing here in India currently?
See, the question is, one is about support and maintenance and so on. But today, business leaders are getting involved, right? So it's business which is deciding what IT should do, right? It's not necessarily only the CIO who's deciding it. So if you need to be working with the business, then you need domain expertise,
Okay.
right? And that is the reason that you need these acquisitions for. So you need it for engaging with the business people, understanding how to do, which is the contextual part, how do you do business in France, and how do you do banking business in France is the domain plus the contextual information that you need.
Okay. And anything that the French would seek from India in terms of IT, where we can deliver
Well,
something?
we have such a big market. We can do two things. I think the French companies who have solutions that are suitable for us, they can tie up with Indian companies and offer those solutions here. And B, they can also offer those solutions which can be embedded in global solutions that we offer. So I think they have to come out more aggressively, right?